This week's Common Sense Award goes to Bernie Sanders. He is one of just a few congressmen standing up to corrupt people in both parties and saying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid should be off the table in debt negotiations for the fiscal cliff that's upcoming. Because A, they're not the problem, and B, they're some of the few overwhelmingly popular programs and they actually work. Now, repeatedly, Obama has said he's open to compromise and we need a, quote, balanced approach. But what that means is simply, yeah, I guess we'll raise taxes on the rich a little bit, but grandma also needs some healthcare cuts too. Which is not a fair or balanced approach at all. When all is said and done, in Iraq and Afghanistan, some experts estimate we will have wasted $4 trillion there. We currently have 900 military bases in 130 countries. We spend more than the next 14 biggest militaries combined. But instead of taking a hacksaw to the waste and bloat in our offense spending / empire budget, and at least cutting it in half, which would still, by the way, leave us the world's most powerful military by a tremendous margin, instead of doing any of those things, which would make sense, we need to come after the programs for the poor and the middle class, according to our majority of our politicians. Furthermore, Social Security is completely solvent until the year 2038, and after that year, it'll pay out 75% of its benefits. By law, Social Security is not allowed to add to the deficit, and it hasn't. It actually has a $2.7 trillion surplus, but that surplus has been raided by the government to use for other things. By the way, the reason you're entitled to Social Security is because you paid into it. It has nothing to do with freeloading or mooching, as a lot of people would have you believe. So if they raise the retirement age or cut the benefits, make no mistake about it, they're robbing you. Plain and simple. All you would need to do to make Social Security fully funded and fully solvent forever is raise the cap for the payroll tax, which right now is at $106,000 a year. So in other words, a physical therapist making $106,000 a year pays the same payroll tax, which funds Social Security, as LeBron James pays, who rakes in millions every year. So if LeBron James and people like him pay a little bit more, problem solved. Now, Medicare is also solvent until 2024, and after that, it pays out 87% of its benefits. And again, it has simple fixes without hurting elderly Americans or turning it into a voucher system, which no doubt would leave so many people not covered and the money would run out way too quickly. We just need our politicians to have the will to not fuck you over at the expense of their big money corporate donors. Bernie's efforts will likely fall short because as part of a so-called grand bargain deal to avoid the fiscal cliff, so-called fiscal cliff I should say, taxes might go up a tad on the rich, which is a good thing, but yes, there will be safety net cuts in one way or another. Most likely, I think it'll be raising the retirement age, which, make no mistake about it, again, it's nothing short of robbing you. That's what that is. So for being one of the few true liberal Democrats to say no, Republicans, entitlements are off the table, and for standing up to the sellout Democrats in our own party and telling them, take the big three off the table, we won the election, this is not negotiable, stand up for your principles. Bernie Sanders gets this week's Common Sense Award, even though, unfortunately, his efforts will likely fall short.